The Paris Agreement of 27 January 1973 required that all PW be released within 60 days. A four-party joint military commission was established. Its members arranged release schedules, selected the locations of release sites, and worked out the technicalities of repatriation. The repatriation of communist PW began on the 12th of February. United States Air Force C-130s provided most of the necessary transportation. On the eve of the signing of the Paris Agreement, nearly 11,000 former Viet Cong soldiers elected not to return to North Vietnam or the Viet Cong. These new life PW were released into South Vietnamese society. Careful accountability was maintained for the PW awaiting release. A complete personnel record, including medical data, accompanied each PW. Many of the PW had been emaciated when captured. However, a nutrition survey team from the United States Army Medical Research and Nutrition Laboratories found that PW gained from 8 to 15 pounds per man while in South Vietnamese PW camps. As the release operation began, not everything went according to schedule. At Bien Hoa, where movement to the airport was scheduled to begin at 6 a.m., PW refused to move until it received instructions from the Viet Cong. The Subcommittee on Captured Persons of the Joint Military Commission was dispatched from Saigon to confer with the reluctant PW. This delay held up the release of 27 American prisoners of war at Loc Ninh. After a lengthy meeting, the PW agreed to start the repatriation. In accordance with the Paris protocols, the sick and the wounded were moved first. As is customary in Vietnam, the PW used towels to shade their heads from the sun. Accountability was strictly maintained both in the camps and at the release sites. Special provision was made for the transportation of litter cases. Other difficulties were encountered during the release of the women. Throughout the conflict, women soldiers were captured alongside other enemy soldiers. The female PW were interned at Quy Nhon. Following the North Vietnamese invasion during Easter 1972, the women were evacuated and cared for at Can Tho. As a group, they remained difficult and contentious, discarding clothing, daily rations of rice, and other personal items, and staging fainting spells at release sites. The priorities of release were carefully followed. First, the sick and wounded, then the aged and the women, finally, the able-bodied PW. Loading of aircraft was assisted by U.S. Air Force personnel and Army advisors. By terms of the Paris Agreements, the International Commission of Control and Supervision was created, composed of representatives from Canada, Hungary, Indonesia, and Poland. The ICCS observed every phase of the release of PW. Air transport was chosen both because of the speed of movement and the lack of suitable ground or water transportation.
Mời đại úy Chí lại gặp tôi gấp. Xin nhắc lại mời đại úy Chí đến gặp tôi gấp.
Many PW were flown to Quang Tri City, just north of Hue and close to Thạch Hãn River. They were then moved by truck through Quang Tri City, a bitter reminder of the war. Upon arriving at the exchange site, some of the PW made a final gesture of defiance, discarding their PW camp-issued uniforms. The North Vietnamese made a show of providing assistance, sometimes including medical personnel, whether PW needed it or not. American and South Vietnamese representatives to the JMC were on hand throughout release operations. Exchange site rosters contained the names of each PW, his interment serial number, date of capture, date of birth, and parents' names. As each man was checked off, he was moved to a new tent to receive a fresh uniform. ICCS members observed all formalities at the repatriation sites. As each new group of PW reached an exchange site, the same rituals of defiance were repeated. This was at Loc Ninh. Most PW who did not wish to accept return to the communist side had already been released under the New Life program. However, some PW changed their minds at the last minute. One such was this man. While the ICCS discussed what should be done, a group of newly released PW moved into the area. As it turned out in this instance, a decision on the matter would be violently settled. South Vietnamese military police attempted to protect the man from harassment or intimidation. A decision was made to take him back to the aircraft, but VC personnel prevented such a move. While the ICCS was still discussing the matter, a group of approximately 25 men rushed the guards and took the man by force. They dragged him off behind the release site and away from the cameras, beating and kicking him. VC officials at the site did nothing. Finally, when someone in the crowd raised an arm, the attack stopped. Later, at the insistence of the ICCS, the man was brought to their shelter for questioning. A clearly frightened PW now insisted he would return to the VC. The South Vietnamese asked if the man was giving his answers under mental duress as a result of the beating. The ICCS decided that if the man was beaten and still wanted to stay, that was up to him.
I saw him grabbed by the other prisoners and dragged on the ground. And when he answered questions here, his mouth wasn't breathing. And when I first saw him on the tarmac, his mouth was not breathing.
Lúc nãy tại sao anh lại không trở về? Lúc nãy tại sao anh lại không chịu cách mạng? Lúc nãy, hồi nãy là vì quá sự kiện kẹp tôi không trở về được. Nghe rõ nhá. Yeah, I won't say. I won't interrupt.
The next time such an incident occurred, the ICCS was ready. When a second PW refused repatriation, the ICCS chairman took steps to isolate the man and prevent any intimidation.
Bây giờ thì phía của Việt Nam Cộng Hòa chưa trao trả cho chúng tôi.
He was escorted directly to an ICCS shelter. When the ICCS prepared to ask the man whether he wished to remain with the VC or return to an area controlled by the Republic of Vietnam, the VC attacked what they termed the Saigon regime, claiming the man had been intimidated. The VC then marched approximately 50 of the returnees up to the meeting site, apparently hoping to frighten the man with a show of force. The U.S. and South Vietnamese protested the show as being barbaric.
The only thing we should do is the same as we did the last time. We do the same on the last man. We ask him, does he want to stay or does he want to go?
It was finally agreed to allow the man to return to territory controlled by the Republic of Vietnam. On the last day scheduled for repatriation, a group of more than 200 PW at Bien Hoa refused to return to the North Vietnamese or the Viet Cong. The North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong refused to witness the event.
Ông bảo sau khi mà ông quan sát xong rồi thì mình làm cái việc của mình.
We would like to speak to some of the prisoners.
Ông bảo ông muốn nói chuyện với một vài người tù binh.
The PW were notified that they would not be forcefully repatriated, but would be released in South Vietnam instead. Their reaction spoke for itself. The United States, the Republic of Vietnam, and her other allies in the recent conflict share with more than 130 nations a special commitment to the civilized standards in the Geneva Conventions. The human rights of the captured were protected. Their wounds or illnesses were treated. The PW were interned in accordance with international law. Delegates of the International Committee of the Red Cross had access to the PW, and recommendations to PW camp authorities were carried out. More than 26,000 enemy PW were returned to the Viet Cong and North Vietnamese, while 11,000 new life PW were released and returned to take up the traditional Vietnamese way of life in South Vietnamese society.